Hello everyone, my name is Katerega Julius. My friends call me KJ. I am the 85th Guild President of Makerere University. Uh, I am a member of Makerere University Council representing the people of Kampala, having been elected as LC5 Authority Councillor for Kawempe South. The city authority sent me back to Makerere to represent the interests of the city here. My memories with this university are always marked in a simple phrase, which is Makerere University is a hill of endless possibilities. That means if you have a dream and you join Makerere, you can realize it and become the person you've always wanted to be. So coming to this university, I came here as a private student in 2016. I was paying my tuition through my, what we call ASO. Now, through my ASO or through my routine, my work. I used to work I used to vent shoes. I would wake up. Then I first lived in Chikoni, then moved to Micho Hall in my year 1 second semester. That's how I would move from Micho to town at around 5 in the morning. But I had to make sure I am back for lectures by 8 in the morning because I had to raise my tuition and I had to feed. Eventually, of course, I faced challenges here and there, like any other person, footing your bills and everything. I registered for a dead semester. It was very painful, but a dead semester means a dead year, literally. It was very painful for me as a person. Having been, a coordinator for my course, I was my class coordinator, so I saw my class go ahead because I couldn't afford. But I didn't lose my dream, which was when I came to Makerere, I wanted to be guild president. Then when I came, there was a rerun for guild presidency between Sembo Garoy and Basil Mota. When I saw the energies and the resources that were employed by the state, but also by the people who were running, I realized that it would be very difficult for a person, given my background. I then decided that I would participate in the politics of this university. So I joined the Uganda Younger Democrats, the UID, which has groomed so many leaders for this nation, this region, through Makerere University. Started here and went on. So I joined the UID first as the chief fresher, but then became one of its best mobilizers and became its projects coordinator. So eventually, around 2019, 2018, I was joining my year 2. We had a colleague who had to run for guild president. He got some issues with the university administration, and colleagues settled on me. And I said, if you're no more progress, because I was back and my results were okay, so they were like, please run for guild president. It is one of those hardest decisions I ever took. My major scare or my major challenge was not that I couldn't convince people, but it was on the side of resources. Times have changed. When you talk to the people who were guild presidents in the 90s, would tell you, for example, that in our times, you had to talk and the students had to listen, and probably they would pick the best orator or a person who addressed a particular issue affecting them at that time. In our times, because politics has been highly monetized, you cannot take away the money factor. So it was a factor. Money is also it's a resource, or what we call logistics. It's part of logistics in Makerere for you to run a winning campaign. So we calculated and realized I needed at least between 15,000 and 20,000 US dollars to run a successful campaign. I did have that kind of money, and I would not get it certainly. I think what like what everyone needs is the belief to know that you can become. So I ran a very tight campaign between me and my colleague, Mukisa Joshua William. He's a colleague from law school. I was from School of Education doing literature and English. I'm one of, in the 21st century, I may be one of a few guild presidents who have, who are literature majors. It had last happened, of course, the first recorded guild president here, David Rubadili, was from that department, but we were very few. So, and the reason is people say that people from School of Education participate in politics a lot, but people from the Department of Literature don't. The reason is they read a lot. So I had a lot of mobilization to do first amongst my colleagues, because you cannot go out to run when you don't have the backing of everyone. So my first mobilization had to be mobilizing literature students. When I mobilized them and they came on board, I felt like I would win. I moved to Mitchell Hall, another ground, and then the UID flag, which I took. Mitchell Hall and Complex recognized me as the Mitchell X candidate for that year, 2019, and went on. It was a very tedious campaign. When you go back and look at the archives, it is one of the most violent campaigns there had been. One being that the whole solidarities. I was coming from Mitchell, my opponent was coming from Lumumba. These halls usually fight to dominate this year. In our times, it is Mitchell and Lumumba that fight for dominance. So it meant that the campaign would be very rough and very shoddy. As a result, many of my people on my campaign team got injured here and there, and the reverse was, when I became guild president, we implemented a number of projects. I came up with a theme which was celebrating Makerere's diversity through community outreach. And I ran one of my major projects called the Mark Connect initiative. So in the Mark Connect, we aimed at taking the university out to the community. In one of those projects, which we did around November 2019, we took around 100 medical students to the western districts of Kisoro and Bitoma. We went there and treated people in Kisoro for 4 days and in Bitoma for 3 days. It is something I pride in, and we did a lot of positive impact. People were able to look at Makerere students like, hey, so Makerere students do other things other than striking. For me, that is what I intended to achieve. And we wanted people to see what goes on in the walls of Makerere. We took, in another project, we worked with students from law school, and there is a project called PILAC. We would go to the slums around the university for legal aid. So we would arrange and take, people from different colleges out there. We did another outreach in Nakasongola, where we went with medical students, we went with law students from different halls and other disciplines to do what we are taught here to the community for free. The university appreciated it a lot. I remember that's one of the times I've ever received a call from the chairperson of University Council, Mrs. Rona Magana, to thank me when she saw one of the projects we did around here, which was the cleaning and greening campaign. We got out of through the small gate of Wandegea and went around through Chukumi and Chikoni, cleaning, getting into trenches, and then planting trees around. To date, when I walk around, there are fruit trees that I see, and I remember we are the ones who, I am the one who led the team that planted those trees around the community. I feel proud as a person. My vision was to make an impact. The major challenge I faced as Guild President was before becoming Guild President, the university had passed a policy to increase its tuition cumulatively for 5 years, 15% cumulatively for 5 years. It was not just unfair, it was unrealistic, and that was the major challenge. Students were dropping out. The quality assurance report for the year 2019 showed that over 2,700 students dropped out of the university. Now previously between 300 and 700 students would drop out. And the major explanation for that was tuition had increased. We thought that that policy had to be reviewed because it is a responsibility of any nation to ensure that its citizens become better. One of those ways to make people better is through educating them. So we challenged that policy. What happened is a number of our students were suspended, and it gave off one of the longest strikes in the history of the Students' Guild. A strike that ran for 24 days in this university. I had not seen it. It was very tedious. I didn't want it, but as a leader of the students, you have to take charge and present their case to the forces that be, and a number of other things, but also balancing the opinion, because everyone in the university carries their opinion, but coming out of that challenging moment victorious, for me is one of those things. We ran a number of projects. We did the first agricultural week, which was based on under the Connect. We did, you see, Makerere does a lot of research, but it never gets out there. So we did, Uganda being an agricultural nation, we looked at celebrating Makerere University's contribution to agriculture through research. And we put out the first exhibition, the first of its kind. I do not think a second one. The second edition has followed since we left. And guest of honor was President Museveni. When he came through, he was amazed at what happens in these worlds, what majorly the College of Agriculture, but also other colleges do in terms of research and how they affect agriculture. So we realize that there is a lot of knowledge lying in these walls, but it is not transferred to the communities because we lack money. So that is what we thought. We thought that if we put maybe exhibitions as the Students' Guild out there, and authorities that come and see what research people do here, we will be able to address a number of challenges. Then they will be able to fund this, and as a result, communities will transform. When I look back in modern times, I rate my government as one of the best Students' Guilds because of the opinions that I have picked from the administrators who we disagreed with severally on a number of issues. Students' opinions, which they still give to us because we are not, I wouldn't say we are very recent, but we are not very far. 2019, 2020, 2021 was our time because of COVID-19. We served longer than most of the guild presidents. When I look back, I think we made our impact. What I envision for Makerere, as I conclude, my wish is that Makerere University gets more funding to work on things it should work on. There is a lot of research going on here, and if funded, it would transform the lives of many Ugandans and many people in this region. 2, halls of residences are our source of pride as people. I have moved around. I was doing a dinner for former guild presidents, and I went to Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda looking for good presidents. All of them that I met, people like the late Mutevile and others, would first tell you that my hall of residence is this. This is my hall of attachment. I am a gentleman. I am a rat. I am an elephant. So these particular units form a very important unit of Makerere students' history and alumni. So we think this is something that needs to be, it should be a priority. These halls, because halls like Mitchell Hall have had great people for this region, people like Julius Nyerere. Northcote had people like Mzee Kibaki of Kenya. Livingstone had Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, Professor Emmanuel Tumusiime Mutevile. Mitchell had the late speaker Jacob Olai. It had Norbert Mao, Kano Kizza Besigye, myself, and many other people. These units hold a lot of, we think they need to be funded and they need to be brought up to the standard. But they're also named after great people. Mitchell is named after Sir Philip Mitchell, who constructed the main building. He was a governor when this university was opened. Nkrumah, we all know Nkrumah of Ghana. We know Patrice Lumumba. All these, we know Nsibirwa Hall, which the Katikiro who gave us the land where this university sits. So we think these units need to be worked on and be brought up to the standard of a research-led institution in the heart of Africa in the 21st century. Because KJ. Why not why? Because KJ. I also didn't know, I don't know what it means up to date, but I would ask them why not why, and they answer because KJ. And they voted for me. And then we had my friend Ed Kenzo had released a song previously called Jubilation. So we introduced what we call the KJ dance. Previously it was the Mitchell dance. Mitchellites are very creative people, like you will know. But later I was given, because they gave me the mantle to represent them. So they named that dance after me, the Katerega dance. So the Katerega dance trended globally. So I think those two stood out for me. My slogan, just asking people why not why, and then they respond because KJ. KJ are my initials. Why not why? Because KJ. And then maybe a time they beat us, military beat us on the last rally. So our sound system disappeared, our band disappeared, and my opponent had everything. So I had to use my character as a person to stand. So I coined something. I was like, we are not fighting you. And I told the person next to me, you respond, we are fighting for you. We are not fighting you, we are fighting for you. Before I knew it, the crowd had grown again. I moved out with a mammoth, with the biggest crowd that evening, but without a band, without a sound system, just using those gimmicks and creatives here and there. About Mitchell Hall, like you all know, is the oldest hall in this university. It is the pride of this university. It was established in 1930, initially starting from where CCE stands and then moving to the other side. Our days there in Mitchell, I can say, also define my best days in Makerere. First of all, the orientation. We were oriented into cultures like morning jogging and other sessions. But then you were also taught, there were sessions where you were taken and the chairperson has to talk to you. Then when we were freshers, they oriented us and told us our duty here was to beat our opponents. That meant other solidarities, mentally, academically, and otherwise. So that's why you see many students from Mitchell Hall take their academics serious. Now we also have another culture of of the rad, what we call our whole culture. We also took a very good orientation. what it meant to be in Micho is that you're taken through, that this hall is a place where you have to redefine yourself. If you want to be a musician and you're Ugandan, you want to follow, you are following the roots of a great person like GNL Zamba, one of the greatest rappers to ever walk here. He has been in Micho. You're given that history. If you want to be a politician, you are walking through strides of someone as great as Colonel Kizza Besigye. You are walking, if you want to be a military general, they called for you someone like General David Sejusa, like the head of prisons. If you want to be a politician, they bring for you the likes of Norbert Maus, the late Jacob Olanya. But above all, they would tell us that you cannot be shamed this hall, because Micho is, we would say Makerere is in Micho, Micho is in Makerere. Then we would say that Micho or Makerere is in Uganda, and Uganda is in East Africa. The father of the East African community is Katerega Julius, like we all agree. Julius Nyerere, for his university days, slept in Micho Hall. It was his hall, it is his hall. So for that, you needed to move with your head high. As who shared Micho with Julius Nyerere, but also shared the literature department with him, and Benjamin Mkapa and others were extra proud. But that was taught to us there. And then the way we lived, you would find that, room allocation in the hall is that 1 or 2 people are allocated a hall, a room. But what would happen is, there are days when we would sleep in one room like 9 people. What is happening? Either we are catching up on a movie, or we don't have, amongst us, we are like 10 boys, and all we have is 1,000 shillings. And then we have Kashela. So what we would do is we would go and buy, there is a guy called Muchiga. And before him there was a Muchiga, and before him there was another Muchiga in Micho. So like 3 decades of Micholites will tell you a person called Muchiga there. So you would go maybe to Muchiga's canteen and buy Mbao. You would buy cassava chips. And we go to that, and you go to a room and share it with Kashela. If we don't have sugar, the way boys live in Micho is the way they live in every hall. You would find that on the entire floor there is one person with a flat iron, and we would all use that flat iron. You would, if you wake up late when you bought, say you have a nice shoe, you have nice crafts, you would wake up and your neighbor has taken them. Then there is what we used to call benching. We would come to complex so often. Before becoming guild president, I think I knew a person per room in complex main broke. It is funny, but it is true. I had friends around. I was one of those people who were very engraved in the culture of Micho. So I had so many friends across. It worked for me later when I developed ambitions for presidency. But we would come here and bench. We would come for porridge nights at complex. I think those are some of the best moments we had. And then we would wake up, especially every Saturday, for jogging. So this jogging comprised of, jogging, singing what we call culture songs. We would sing our culture songs and get back to our hall, or get to University Hall, where University Hall is where Micho cooks from. Is where our breakfast, lunch and supper would be prepared back then. So we would get there. The time I came, Micho's DH had been moved to University Hall. So we would get there in a unison to eat. And after we are done, we would get out of the dining and come back to Micho Hall. And Saturday was always the best, because there would be Mara for people who take it. And then there would be sodas for us. There would be a number of other things. And then they would take us through this great culture. Our symbol, the rat, we are called the golden bowlers. Micholites are golden bowlers. But the history behind the golden, we are talking about the character. The character. When you say you have balls, like your character is really strong. That's why our motto says we are a culture with dignity, and we are the only people. So the only thing we look at is how good you turn out at the end of the day. A dignified citizen is one who pays taxes, is one who does these things. So we teach ourselves those things at that community, that a dignified mutualite is one who takes care of others, does their duties. When we say it is cleaning, you come up. When we participate in hall leadership, we participate in games. And so Mutual Hall is a place like no other. Even when I left, I have not lived in a community as good as Mutual Hall. And that can go back until 2022 when this university started. There is no place in this whole universe I've been to as there is no place as nice as Mutual Hall. Emicho, a complex soy, a mutual soy, a solidarity toy, a culture with dignity toy.